just crushed you.
Yeah, so I just never knew. Well, there's a lot of things. Like I think, by the time when I met up Bart and Joe and Gio and them, I was sleeping an average of like 2 to 3 hours a night. That's it.
Whoa.
And then kind of like living off of that. And then about, was it like 4 years ago when I started losing the weight? That's when I started, actually going to the doctors and trying to check shit out and figure out like why the fuck I couldn't sleep. And I'm hypersensitive to caffeine. So I would just be drinking coffee like it's nothing, and it would keep me up all night, and I couldn't figure it out. So I just cut out caffeine past 11 a.m.
11 a.m. So how hard do you go before 11 a.m.? Do you get up at 3 to make sure you have plenty of time?
No, I just honestly, all I need is one cup, and I'm pretty wired. Which
my body does not operate that sensitive.
Well, I'll tell you this: you work out a lot more than I do, so
I don't know if that's what does it. I don't know, man. The machine here is pretty resistant to whatever I seem to run through it, which is great. But yeah, sometimes it'd be easier to be a cheaper date.
Let me tell you something. I used to taking pre-workout is a no-no for me.
Oh, like no shit, just fucked you up, done.
Bart sent me his barbell sour gummy pre-workout. I was like, yeah, I'll just take half a cap and see what happens. Or that shit sent me through the fucking roof. Like I worked out so much, I didn't know what my limit was. I woke up I almost went to the emergency. I thought I was dead.
Like, you got a rhabdo? Trying to die first day in the pre-workout.
I tore everything. I was like, I'm done. I can't do this. I still have the full container now. I'm like, I can't do this.
But dude, now that you're training and Bart's training and you've lost a ton of weight, who do you think the toughest, funniest Asian is?
Man, that's hard to say. Probably Bart, right?
You think Bart wins in a fight in that global war?
It's weird. Like, ever since I started training, right? Like, I feel like we all had like this weird, like tough guy syndrome, especially like the way that I grew up. I was always like a geek and a nerd, but then I didn't grow up in a very nice neighborhood. So you kind of had to pretend to be something that you weren't.
Just so you don't get LA?
I'm from Sacramento.
Okay.
So I didn't grow up in LA, but I grew up in a very not so safe area in Sacramento. And no, I was like my father was a pastor and a business owner. So I was a very sweet, kind of normal ass kid. But then, we didn't grow up in a very affluent area. So you kind of have to just puff up and pretend to be something that you're not. And, back in the day, nobody was taking MMA classes. Nobody was taking kickboxing and shit. So when we were just fighting or throwing down, it was just, in my head, it was like a movie, right? I'm like, oh, I could probably throw hands if I need to. And then about 4 years ago, I started taking kickboxing, and I took kickboxing when I was 18. And then I started taking it again when I was like 28.
How old are you now?
I'm 33, 34 this year.
Same age as Christ. Look at you.
Yeah. So I went in, and I remember we started training, and then I recorded it because I wanted to see what my baseline was. And I still have that footage of the first day that I ever trained. And when I was looking back at the footage, I was like, dude, somebody put this shit in slow-mo, man. Like, what is this? Like, my perception of who I was in terms of like my ability to fight and train was so different than what it actually was.
No doubt.
So like, that was a huge wake-up call for me. I'm like, oh, I'm not as tough as I thought I was. And I think a lot of people walk around with this idea that they could just get into a fight and scrap with somebody, and it's just not true.
It's so far from any reality. Even I last year started fooling around and taking some boxing classes and doing that, and something new to train in. And the first day of going in, I believe that you're so much more capable of actually defending yourself in an altercation from like one jiu-jitsu class, one boxing thing, or whatever it is, because you've gotten rid of the way of lying to yourself that you can defend yourself against anyone who knows what they're doing. And so at least after that first class, you go, I'm better to run.
Hey, 100%. People are like, hey, so what do you do when people come up to you? I was like, run.
Be nice and get the fuck away.
Yeah,
what people are coming up to you? What world do you live in?
That's what I'm saying. They're like, well, what's going to happen when people bring out knives to you? I'm like, hey, move. Like, where do you live, bro? Like, what are you talking about? just get the hell out of there. But also, even yesterday, I was jogging around the neighborhood. I usually jog at night. And then I only started jogging at night in the cold because of David Goggins.
Okay.
he just got in my head. He's like, be
Oh,
uncomfortable all the time. And I'm like,
old
oh,
David Goggins, man.
yeah. And so I saw these two dudes. They were, I think they were jacking a car in my neighborhood, but I wasn't sure. And the funny thing is, like, in my head, I'm like, okay, I should do something because these are, people in my neighborhood. Let me tell you what I did. I ran all the way the fuck home.
Did you call cops?
No, I didn't. I went into my car and because this is what I'm scared of. I have more anxiety than I do a fear of like of confronting somebody. So I'm
Okay.
scared that if I come up to this person, it turns out to be their car. It's just their
Oh,
car. I'm gonna embarrass myself.
that's
So
worse. That's worse than the physical altercation. Is just the death of embarrassment.
exactly. I don't want to be that guy where I just walk up to my neighbor. I'm like, fuck you. And then he goes, dude, I've lived next to you for 2 years. How do you not know who the fuck I am? So I just went into my car and I just, casually just drove around the neighborhood and I just went by where it was. And it was my neighbor. I thought I was gonna, I saved myself from embarrassment.
Let me guess. Some white guy. They all look the same.
It was actually two Asian dudes. And I'm like, listen, I'm about to stop some Asian hate right now with these fists.
Oh man, dude. I have to say, over the last couple of years of like getting to know you guys, you and the rest of the people that operate through the JK universe and come and go, it's been so cool to see because I love just the support of that community for each other as creators and what you guys have done in building audiences and learning that. And for me, um, I love the fitness and competing in athletics things that I did for so long, but I really love getting to create content and I love getting to host a show and communicate with people. And so, like, seeing where you're at, like, fuck, man, seeing you on a Netflix show, it was surreal. Like, we were in Dallas and I had just walked into the living room and our team was there and turned it on. And I'm like, fuck is David on TV for? and
you know,
like,
the, yeah,
congrats, dude.
thank you. I mean, that's the weird thing too. It's like, so years ago, like before the Netflix show, actually right before that, I stopped doing JK News. And the reason why I stopped doing JK News is because I got really complacent, you know.
Sure.
And I think that, for me growing up, having very strict parents and spending a good portion of my early life doing stuff that I didn't want to do or kind of just being comfortable didn't allow me to grow. I'm just always in fear of that. So I have a very weird like approach to doing things, which is like even though I did a Netflix show, I did a film, I went to Sundance, I have no inclination to do it again. I, it's not something that I care for. I simply
Interesting.
do stuff just because I want to do it.
Dude,
And
I love that.
if it's checked, it's checked. Like I don't have to do another film. I don't have to do another Netflix show. If it happens, it happens. Like, but I don't care to. So during this time after I left JK to JK News specifically, I had to be uncomfortable again because that was a comfortable paycheck. Like
Yeah.
we showed up a couple of days, I made money and that was just about it. It was one of the easiest jobs ever. But because I did that for an X amount of years, I started losing my personal identity. I started losing my drive. So I decided to kind of cut that off. The safety net. I cut the safety net. I was like, okay, well, now it's time to work. And so that's when I started auditioning, working on shows. We sold a food show, Send Foods, to this company called Thrillist, and then I also booked a Netflix show at the same time. So it's just one of those things to prove that okay, listen, like if all else fails, could you still do this? And I like being in those uncomfortable positions because
No, otherwise you're owned.
yeah,
Dude, and being owned, it's scary too, and it happens for entrepreneurs and creators the same as anyone else. You can get owned by this monster you created.
oh,
And
100%.
and we see it all the time. I think one of my favorite quotes I had heard was from Louis C.K. Long before he got canceled allegedly. Uh, that he was talking about his show on FX, and his show on FX was fucking great.
Yeah,
Was really funny and really smart and hit dark stuff the right way. And he talked about, he left the show before he had to. And people are like, why would you leave? It's fucking killing and blah, 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 blah. And he's like, I'm turned on by building airplanes. And so once I'm flying that airplane, I still have to land it to build the next one.
yeah,
And if what you want to do is create, it's easy to get stuck in that complacency and realize that you're not on the gas anymore and you're
yeah,
not problem solving. You've got a formula.
yeah. And too, it's like I don't know if a lot of people feel this, but Like I always get scared of. I think my biggest fear is uh, just being on my deathbed and saying I wish I could have done more, and I just don't
Fuck that, dude.
like. I don't want that. So even if I try something and I fail, I could always say like, "Hey, at least I tried." You don't know what you're good or bad until you absolutely try it. Like even kickboxing, right? I first that was so fucking hard. When I first started that first year in kickboxing, tore my rotator cuff. I tore uh I tore my my abdomen area right here. I
Oh
didn't even know that was
no.
possible. I was just so weak. I had no fucking idea. And I had to, and by the way, too, my right knee's all fucked up. I have a torn meniscus.
I don't need them.
Yeah, fuck them. I'm gonna get it torn out anyways. And so I was just like, you know what? I just want to see if I could do this. And then, over time you get better and better and better and better. And even now, after what 4 years, I've kind of checked that box because my goal in kickboxing was I don't want to be great or amazing at it. And if I am, then I am. But I want to be able to walk into any gym and just give somebody some trouble. That's it.
Yeah,
So that's it. That's all I want. And if
dude.
they beat my ass, they beat my ass.
That same mentality, right? Like, so for me, getting to do the Highland Games and getting to compete at this high level and win a world championship, really, really cool to be able to train for a thing that I love to do. That I can honestly say, at a moment twice or two moments in my life, there wasn't anyone else on earth better than me at this.
It's crazy.
But it's not this defining thing. Like, I love that I got to do this sport, got injured, and now can't compete anymore. And so now that I don't have to be so specific in my approach to what I want to do, I want to know, like, how many different things can I steal all the newbie gains from and then punch out before, like, I have to really plateau and
Yeah.
work harder.
Yo, you and I are on the same wavelength. That's what I like doing too. I'm like, hey, I got to this point. This feels really good. What's next?
Yeah,
'Cause-
like I did this 20-mile trail run in Bryce Canyon last year,
wow.
and it was like just over 6 hours. Was awesome. And what I learned from it is I really enjoyed it. I have no desire to run further than that.
Yeah.
And I was like, I could stay in shape to do this again if I felt like it. Like, that's it. Like, I do it at a different location for a cooler view, but going to beat that time, like, I couldn't give less of a fuck.
Yeah. It's like, because you could do it,
Right.
and that's the thing too. It's like with just like doing acting, right? It's I could do this. And then that's the weird thing too. I think that when I went to Sundance and then, we won the awards, we did whatever, right? And that was my first film ever. The next conversation that people were having with me was like, "Oh, you're going to be the next big Asian American male actor." And what I always said back to them, I was like, "That's so funny because you never asked me if I wanted that."
Right.
Like you
No thanks.
yeah, it's like that's your goals for me. I never said I wanted that. I just wanted to make this film and I wanted to show people that, hey, if you think that I'm just stuck to these YouTube videos, I can do what you do and I'll do it better. So
Fuck yeah, man.
so when it happened and they're like, okay, well, what's your next step? I was like, I'm done. What do you mean next step? If it happens, it happens. And I audition still and whatever. And I booked the Netflix show and everything else like that. But it's like I don't feel like this drive to prove that I could do something that I've already done 2 or 3 times over. It's like,
Right.
well, what is this? Like life is short too. I want to do other things. you know, life is
Dude,
super short.
I can't express, like, I find that so fascinating, the way that you're describing that, of just being able to not necessarily dabble, but scratch the itch.
Yeah.
Right? They're like, I want to do this. Okay, done. That itch is scratched. And if it wants more, it's there. But I didn't go it with the intent of building this new career. The intent is to explore doing what I can do.
That's the same thing with that we do with like food, right? Because we have the matcha business, we have our shrimp daddy. We also have this other one called Wing Chicks, and that itch hasn't been scratched yet. So that's why we're still working on it till this day. It's been about 4 or 5 years. We have, I think, a total of open stores about 4 or 5 right now, and then in the future we have another 5 opening. And my personal goal for the company and ours, I think, is to open up 30 stores. So
Yeah.
until those 30 stores are open, this itch isn't scratched yet.
Still
So
going.
it's like,
Yeah.
exactly. So we're gonna have to go hard until we get that. Then I can kind of move on. So even for this year, I'm not taking as much auditions. I'm not. It's just all going to be food and podcast, and then a clothing company that I started 4 years ago. I have to get this shit checked off. If not, I can't move on. I feel
Yeah.
like I haven't done it yet. It bothers me. It irritates me.
No, I get it. I definitely understand, like, having these itches, and that having also the freedom in your life to be able to change direction, which is really scary for so many people. Where do you think? I mean, coming from an Asian household with a dad who's doing business and also a pastor, I can't imagine his son becoming a comedian was the first choice. And
Yeah.
so, where did the fucking confidence, man, come from? Like, yo, I'll go, I'll do it.
I think it's just you know that point where you hit rock bottom. Like rock bottom is one of those things. It's like, yo, I have nothing. Like I literally have nothing. I used to wake up, and I've told this story too, where I would wake up and just be like, why? Like, why am I even awake at this point? Like, I'm just gonna do the same shit that I hate every day, and I just don't want to feel that way anymore. And I know where I was in life at that point to feel like that, and I do everything I can to not feel like that ever again. And all it takes is for me to just to take chances, because you know I think people have a weird conception of everybody looks out what somebody else does and thinks that their life is amazing without really looking at theirs, right? So it's
Comparison's a thief of joy.
exactly. It's odd. Like even when I go back home, sometimes people are like, "Hey, I'm super proud of you and what you've done." It's like, okay, like you make these weird comparisons as if what I'm doing is any better than what you're doing. And these are people who are like physicians, lawyers. Like it's like I don't see it like that, right? If I could do what you do, I would have done it if I enjoyed it, you know. But it's just all different. So for me, I just had this constant fear of just feeling that way, and I always do things to make sure I don't feel like that. So when I was hitting rock bottom, it was when I didn't talk to my dad at this point, and I'm really close to my family, and we had a huge fight. I left the house, didn't talk to them, and when I came back, I was still lost because I was still trying to do stuff the way that my dad had taught me. He goes, "If you do X, Y, and Z, you'll be happy." But he didn't know what would make me happy. And I kept on trying to live my life based on what he told me every day, every day. And then I just had a breaking point where I'm like, you know what? This is my life. Like when he's gone, and this is what my mom told me to on the side. She was like my savior. She was like, listen, when mom and dad are dead, you are still left with your life choices. We're not here anymore. So who are you going to live for? You have to live for yourself. She goes, you can be respectful to us. And I need you to get a college degree just to make your dad happy because he's just going to be pissed, which I didn't get, by the way. So she was just like, live your life accordingly. When you make your choices, you have to live with those choices. The people that you marry, the people that you're around. I can give you life advice all that I want, but I'm not living your life. I'm not married to the people you're married to. I don't have your kids. At this point, you're an adult. So from that point on, I'm like, you know what? You're right. I'm gonna do what I want to do.
Yeah,
And
what a
so
critical other side of the opinion to just your dad's side.
I know. And she was telling this on the down low. So
Of
she
course, right?
was
Like, have you been able to like go back as an adult and be like, "Yo, thanks."
yeah.
Like,
Till this day, I talk to my mom like 3 or 4 times a week,
yeah,
you
yeah,
know?
yeah.
So
Yeah. It's. I think that's wildly important, man. That people realize that the set path, and I think that's part of routine and comfort that people find, and that thing that you're chasing, new experience. I started thinking about it that a few years ago is like, how do I slow down time? Because if
mm,
that's the only scarce commodity I've got, and everything I want to accomplish has to happen between now and this X of when I'm fucking dead, I better get busy.
yeah.
And so when I felt time slow down was when I was in Scotland competing, or when I'm in Iceland on a trip, or when I'm creating, or when I'm problem solving, when I'm slightly fucking stressed, because that means the things I'm doing I give a shit about. Like they register. I'm not just in routine. I mean, I think about how quickly a regular routine week of your life will just fucking vanish and blend in to the
Yeah.
weeks around it. Whereas I want more moments that can't blend.
Yeah.
I want more of those where I'm 100% present. I'm in it. And like that's to me how time slows down, because it's easy to be like, oh man, when I was hurt for 8 weeks and on crutches, I don't have anything of significance to tell you that happened in that 8 weeks. It just vanishes.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I spend 10 days in Iceland with people I love, and I have an endless amount of stories and experience I can always draw back on. And so like that time's longer to me than the 8 weeks.
Oh, 100%, man. And I traveling too is one of those things that I always recommend to people because I'll tell you this. So when I was content creating like crazy, I used to do these travel videos and I spent a lot of time on it. And I went to Taiwan. And when I was in Taiwan, I was shooting so much footage. The first 6 days of the trip, I actually don't remember it.
Whoa, you're just always looking through the camera.
Yeah, so the only thing I remember is what I edited, but I don't remember the actual experience, which
Very
was
weird.
which is so fucking disappointing. And after that trip, because we still had another week left, so the other 7 or 8 days, I didn't record anymore. Because I realized that during the middle of the trip. I was like, "Oh, wait, I only remember what I shot, but I don't actually remember the experience of being here with you."
No, because you're thinking about shooting.
Exactly,
It's a
so
different mindset.
mhm, and so
And
I stopped recording and I just experienced it, and the best parts of the trip that I remember are the 7 to 8 days where I wasn't recording.
of
And
course.
so just being present in that moment and experiencing those things, like traveling and spending time with people that you care about are it's everything that you could look forward to. When I first started making a shit ton of money on the space, the first thing I did was buy everything that I wanted as a kid that I couldn't have because I was so broke, right? I bought all these shoes, I bought the nicest car, I did everything. And the crazy thing about that shit is I don't ever look back at that and be like, man, I wish I could buy it again. you know,
Yeah.
but all these experiences that I've shared with my friends and everything else, I could look back, have conversations with them and talk about it. And it feels like I'm living that experience again. It feels just as good as when I was there. And those
No
are the
doubt about it.
important. Yeah.
Dude, life experience to me, that's I, I don't know what comes after the end of this thing.
Yeah.
But if there's anything that is there, I think the experience that you've added to the energy is all that you get to bring with you.
Yeah.
And if there's that moment at the end of my life that my life flashes before my eyes, 60 years of that ain't in a fucking cubicle.
Man, I'm
Mine's gonna
telling
be a
you.
good trip. I'll take that ride back like woohoo.
I'm telling you, and that was the thing too. And once again, my mom was talking to my ear when I was making all this money, and she was like, what are you saving this money for? I was like, I don't know. She
Because
was
I'm supposed to. That's the only thing anyone's ever talked about.
yeah. I was like, I don't know. She's like, I just have to make a lot of money. She goes, yeah, but you're miserable. Like, what does it matter? And she goes, let me, she asked you, she was like, let me ask you, I worked, damn near 80 hours a week. I was working at the church, making meals for the church and everything else. Have you ever heard me say I hate my life or that I complained about it? Like, she goes, "That wasn't because of money. Like, I'm happy. I'm happy I get to work. I'm happy that, you're grown, that I'm healthy, you're healthy. These are the things that I care about. I don't understand why you feel like you have to have all these great things to make you happy." And I was like, "Oh shit. I kind of fucked up the formula.
Mhm.
Invested the money because I thought I had to fulfill this need that I wanted as a kid. But the reason why I wanted that stuff as a kid was because of how other people made me feel because I didn't have it. And
Sure.
that's why I wanted it. It's not because I actually wanted it or needed it. So after that point, I sold all the shoes. I got rid of the Tesla. I got rid of all this other stuff I didn't need. And then I went so far the opposite. I sold the Tesla and I got a Honda Element.
Fucking, that's a cool flex.
I was driving around a Honda Element for like 3-4 years until that shit damn near exploded on me.
Oh man.
You know?
But it's what a cool unlock it is, right? That you got the ability to buy all that shit and go, I don't care.
Yeah.
So like what a cool thing that you've escaped, that so many people spend their entire life and energy chasing to buy this stuff that they want to believe is epic. This And I think part of it, right, is as you're coming up, it's easy to look at people that you think are successful and be like, okay, they're successful. If I have their things, then I'm successful. And
Yeah.
then you get things and they're just things. At some point they're fucking novel, right? Like at some point being in a Bentley's still a fucking car.
Exactly. That's
Really
exactly how I
nice
feel
car,
about
but
it.
it's a fucking
Yeah, I
car.
mean, these are all dope things. And you know what? When other people buy it, I'm happy for them too, and I'll experience it when you let me ride in it, but I don't want
That's it. Yeah,
it.
right.
'Cause
Like if it doesn't make the things I'm doing make me happier to do them, like that's where I draw the line.
yeah, and so like, okay, for me too, after the Honda Element damn near exploded on me, and Bart used to always make fun of me about that
Of
car.
course he did.
This
Of course
motherfucker's
they did.
like
I wanted to ask so bad. Like, let me know how that fucking harassment from those animals went when you
every
switched to the Honda Element.
every day. This will look at my car. He goes, "What the fuck is this thing? Like, you have money. Go buy something better." So I was like, "No, you know what? The more you say this, the more I'm gonna keep this fucking car."
Or I love it.
So I kept it for 4 years, and then it just kind of, the repairs on it were going to cost more than
Yeah.
what the actual car was worth. So I got a Forerunner instead, and so and I love Forerunners, right?
And it's a great car.
Yeah. So I'm like, you know what? I'm going to invest into this car. It's damn nowhere near how much the Tesla cost.
Yeah.
So, but it's something that I could use for a long period of time. And on top of that, too, it's the lifestyle that I want to live. I want to go outdoors. I want to camp. I want to do all
Man.
the stuff. So now, too, it's, things that I put money in. It's something that's going to better improve my life in the long run. Because, like we said, we don't know what happens after this.
No,
I,
no clue.
I die. I can't take any of this shit with me. I can only just live the best life that I can. And, I think like when I say this in my videos too, some people push back. So why can't I have nice things? They're like, well, you fucking dummy. I'm not telling you can't have nice things. I'm just giving you a different, fresh perspective from somebody
Right.
who's a little older than you that's telling you what I thought would make me happy. You could take it for what it is, but I have yet to see otherwise. I'm in LA and I'm in front of all these fancy, rich ass people, and I have yet to see the happiest person in the room with the most things. So when you show me that fucking person, then maybe I'll believe you, but I haven't seen it yet. So I see the person who's very good at coming on this little phone and showing you that their life is amazing.
Mm.
And then when I talk to them in person, all they do is complain, 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 complain. It's like you have everything that you said that you wanted, but you still complain. I don't want that life. I
Dude,
don't want it.
I have no interest in that either. I
Yeah.
have no fucking interest in that. Like, that's one of those things that, like, if I'm, talking around or being around people, like, it bugs me when people get too excited and dive into just business, business, business. And I'm going to make money and show you how to fucking kill and hustle, whatever it is. And that message that, I also believe in, but the tone of it isn't right.
Yeah.
And because it is all those things, you have that drive to constantly be uncomfortable and push yourself. But it isn't to build this worth to show people from the outside. Like, dude, money's a tool and should be treated accordingly. If it is not helping you do things better than you were doing them before, then it's not as useful.
Yeah. 100%. And
Fuck being rich and unhappy.
yeah, I just, I always go back to Hawaii every year, right? And, people in Hawaii, like a lot of people that I met over there, number one, it's like one of the most expensive places to live, but the wage is shit. But
Yeah.
I never hear anybody that I know over there complain about their life. They always talk about how much they love where they're at, how much they love Hawaii, and it's not a front either. They're enjoying each other's time. And in fact, whenever I come home or come to Hawaii, they're just like willing to just let go of their part-time job for a moment, lose the money, and hang out. Like
Dude,
that's
Iceland's exactly the same.
it's amazing.
Yeah, it's something about islands for one. And I think part of that is just that it's such a smaller community. Like Iceland in general, there's only 300,000 people and 250,000 live in Reykjavik. So fuck, they all know each other. There's no
Jesus.
anonymity there. Like
Yeah.
there's no crime. Like I remember a buddy of mine was working security at IKEA years ago. And so I was like, oh man, like, what do? You catch someone stealing? Like, just fucking punk ass question, right? And he's like, oh, just call them. I was like, oh, because you personally know who they are. And he's like, someone does.
Yeah. I was like, I know his mom.
Like, yeah,
oh,
like, I guess that works. We'll just go to his house and get the stuff back.
But that's kind of cool though. There's like community and personal responsibility, which I really, really enjoy.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people don't have that now. Like
I don't think many people do.
like even knowing who your neighbor is,
Right.
by their first name. People don't have that either. It's weird. Like I'll say hi, like I like this neighborhood that I live in now because everybody says hi to each other. So and it feels really good. And a lot of the times too, because people don't know their neighbors, they don't want to feel personally responsible for the other things that are happening. They kind of just ignore it, and then you lose that sense of community and care for each other. It's hard. Like even
And
for
you
me,
also
like,
lose empathy or anything else that comes with it. And so, like, it's easy if you don't know your neighbor to be like, they're leaving their trash cans out, like, and like have to report and be some snitchy ass fuck.
exactly. You could, or because if you knew them, they would just talk to you.
Yeah.
They'll just be like, "Hey, make sure you take in your garbage." Like, got you. Or even for me, sometimes if they forget, I'll put up the garbage can for them. It's not a big fucking deal. Like even like I said, those guys who I thought were robbing the car, I didn't want to do it, but I had to run back home and get in my car and pretend that I'm swooping around the neighborhood. like,
dude, you're an incredible Batman.
just the worst Batman ever.
Batman, you are.
All I'm thinking is like, oh man, I can't do anything. What if these guys have a weapon? I'm like, I guess I have to run them over. But
but something I think about most people though, man, and something I don't know that I want to say lucky enough, but like having the come up with the JK crew or whatever got you from whatever to that. And being around other people that were trying new stuff and willing to dream and like take a risk on building their own thing. I also forget how few people have access to anyone like that.
Yeah. You
And then
know,
there's no proof in their life that anything's possible.
people don't, I've thought about this actually a lot last year, just because I went through, or we all kind of went through our own personal dramas with like personal relationships. Now, for me, I've had the same friends even before I met Bart and Joe since I was like 3.
Yeah.
I don't really throw away people very easy. And if you become an intricate part of my circle and we've been there to support each other since day one, you're gonna have that loyalty. Depending on if you're a decent human being, you know.
Sure.
Yeah. So even when I went back home, I hung out with people that I've been friends since I was like 12 years old, and it was like I never left,
Yeah.
and it feels great. Um, People don't know how to make friends now. They
No.
they don't know what friends are. They don't know what friendship is. I think that they kind of look at people like social media tabs, like what can I gain from this person by being around them, and that kind of stuff should have died out after you left high school, but it's still growing out into adulthood. People look at people as a stepping stone for their next part in life. It's like nothing ever beats being around somebody that'll support you 100% no matter what and who you are, right? As
Yeah.
long as you're a good person. And because people don't emphasize that when they create friendships and bonds, I say this too. So many people now, and I'm trying to advise like a lot of the people that I know or my subscribers, like stop fucking on the first date, especially with friendship. You're so quick to meet somebody and you go, besties, how the fuck do you know?
Right. You don't know shit about each other.
Exactly. And they get fucked over.
Yeah,
They
that
get
dude
fucked
they
up.
beat off the feet porn. That's
Yeah.
whatever. I'll hang
they,
out with him later on down the week.
they get drunk with this person, they party, whatever, do these little social events, and then this person backstabs them. They go, I can't believe they did that.
Can't believe it.
You better, but you don't even know them.
You don't know shit about that human.
It's like, how the fuck? What are you? Of course they did that to you. They don't owe you shit. You're not friends. You guys are acquaintances, and it's okay to say that somebody's an acquaintance. Like
Yeah.
think about it, like even like wedding invites, right? Like I got invited to like 6 weddings this year. I barely
Sure.
know these motherfucking people,
Right.
and I have no problem saying I'm good.
Yeah, I am not obligated.
Yeah,
Dude, so that's something you talked about early on that I completely harnessed a couple years ago whenever I hit detonate button on the old life. And it was, I'm not doing a fucking thing again out of obligation.
yeah,
It's either I want to be there or I'm not fucking going. And
yeah.
I don't owe you an apology for that. I understand there's consequences. And cool, but I don't find anything worse than you thinking you deserve my time. It's mine.
100%. And you know what? Doing that too actually helps the relationship because you set boundaries.
Yep.
And now they know. So now either we can grow from this or you get to know me better and now I know you better. So like for example, I had just got invited to it, and this happens every fucking year. Someone's like, yo, man, I want you to come to my wedding. And I'm like, I'm good, bro.
I'm
And they
not
go,
going, dude.
and they go, why not? I was like, well, hey, just to be honest with you, I haven't talked to you in 3 years.
Yeah.
I don't know who your wife is. And then on top of that, I don't know anybody else at the fucking wedding. Why the fuck would I go?
Yeah.
And he goes like, oh, I see. I just, it'd be nice if you were there. No. It'd be nice
I
because
see what
you
you're saying.
am. Yeah. I was like,
I hear what you're saying.
yeah. So
It would
it's
be
like,
cool if David was at your wedding.
exactly. And I'm like, listen, you don't want me there because if I'm there, I'm going to trash your wedding. Like I'm going to make your wedding the worst. I will grab
Show
that
up and be a problem.
I was like, yeah, if you want me to go, let's go. I'm gonna grab that mic and I'm going to roast the fucking shit out of you in front of your whole family and friends. So if you want that, let's do this. And he's like, okay, I get it, I understand. I'm like, yeah, man. But look, if you want to be friends, hit me up the next time you're in LA. If not,
Yeah.
then you shouldn't be asking me this stuff. It's uncomfortable stuff to say, and normally I don't do this, but this is a very specific case where it's like the audacity, you know.
Yeah.
And he got it.
No doubt. And man, hearing just even that, right? Like you saying that, like, I'll roast you at your wedding and thing like that. One of those things I'm fucking hyper aware of because I've hosted a number of things and done stuff like that now. And I love doing this, but I understand people who are fucking good. I can talk. I am not ninja level, that guys who have done fucking comedy are. I just be polite and fucking hide in the back. Because, man, you unleash you goddamn animals on each other. It's the funniest thing in the fucking world. I will happily watch masters attack each other.
Let me tell you something. I was at a wedding not too long ago, and I specifically told this person that I knew I had this feeling that they wanted me to do a speech. And I'm like, I'm not doing a speech. I'm here to be at the wedding, drink, dance, have
Yeah.
fun. And lo and behold, on the spot was like, I need somebody to do a speech from Los Angeles. And then obviously I already knew who they were asking for. And I was like, okay, you asked for this. Grabbed the mic, literally just made fun of the bride. I just roasted the bride for like 15 minutes straight. And afterwards, she was like, so you kind of went in on me, huh? I was like, I told you not to. I told you not to. It's like, don't take advantage of me. I'm gonna destroy you.
You,
And it
you
was
chose this.
yeah, I was like, you chose violence. Like, this is your choice. Consequences, my friends.
Absolutely, dude. Absolutely. Man, it's also people do feel entitled to your time.
Yeah.
Or entitled to your response, or entitled that you're going to be emotionally invested in their thing. And man, I found people that want me more invested in their thing than they are.
Dude.
Like you need, like, without me, your thing doesn't work. Do you understand how that's not great?
It's probably not a good idea in the first place.
Oh,
And
no.
you know, they look at friendships too, like sometimes with other friends, and they go, well, they can do it. I was like, yeah, because they earned that spot. That's their spot. Like, for example, I had dinner with my friends Jeremy and Anna, and then Bart and Gio were in town, and she just texts me. She goes, so I'm gonna come over for dinner too. And I'm like, yeah.
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
guess
of
what?
course.
I've known her for 12 years, and
Right.
we're like this. She could literally come into the middle of the fucking night and sleep on my couch, and I'd be okay. You
Dude,
know?
I love those people in my life, like that close level of family, that it's just completely understood that we have let go of any bullshit, or any real boundaries that matter, because it is absolute love and trust within those people of like, my universe is completely available to you and you don't have to ask.
Mhm,
Consider this part of your resources.
mhm. There's
And
no and,
the
that's
best.
it took time. And that's like, that's what I'm saying, like, these people who fuck on the first date with their friendships is, like, the dumbest thing ever.
I dig
Things
that.
take
Fucking on the first day with your friendship.
yeah, man, like, this thing takes time, and, Bart, Gio, Joe, we all went through our trials and tribulations even within our friendships and our circle group, but after a while, it just strengthened our bond, and now we're at this point where we just completely understand each other. Like, it the growing process was a lot longer than people thought it was. Because when we tell our story, we go, "Yeah, we clicked." We clicked, but it doesn't mean we were friends yet.
No, no.
Yeah, we clicked, but our friendship took time to grow, and all those growing pains allowed us to be stronger. And even this year too, like last year, there are people that I had to cut out, specifically because pandemic fucked them up. These
Dude,
people, it wrecked them so hard. They had to sit in their house by themselves without distractions and kind of face the person that they are. They never had to do that before, and they found out that they're a piece of shit.
oh, they should take more mushrooms.
Something, man. And it's weird. Like when I saw what pandemic did to people, I was kind of shocked. I was like, oh, a lot of people don't have introspection. Like they don't sit there and think about the things that they do. And so when they were just left with alone with their thoughts, they were left with a lot of regrets. And that started affecting our personal friendship, right? Because some people took that as a period to grow, or they harbored resentment.
Sure.
And so, and you know what? I find that still a blessing too, because now it's like, oh, this is who you are. Now you already knew who I was, so now you can move on and do other things.
Yeah.
So,
I really try to embrace this idea of total accountability, that everything in my life is my fault. And I'm responsible. So like the example I use of that is, if I let you borrow my car and you got into a wreck, like I take care of that because I let you borrow my car. I'm
mm.
responsible. I would love for you to help me out and be a fucking G about it, but I got it. You may not be able to borrow my car in the future. I've learned. Uh, and if I borrowed your car and I wrecked it, I'd take care of it because that was my responsibility. I took the keys.
Yeah.
And so that makes me never a victim. I'm always at the wheel for the choices I've made somewhere down the road. And that keeps me accountable for all of it. That no matter what it is, it's like, that was my choice. And so what I'm really careful of is now what and who I give access to the controls of my emotions. Sure
Mm.
as shit isn't that fucking device I carry around in my pocket.
Mhm. I love that. That makes so much sense. You know, personal responsibility feels good. People are scared of it, but it actually feels really good because it allows you to control chaos. Life is chaos. It's chaos all the fucking time. And the faster you get to realize that, the happier you'll be because you're not trying to control things that are out of your control. You could only do stuff here. Like I can only control how I feel and how I behave, right? Because allowing somebody to take control of your emotions sucks. Like for me, I'm not saying that I don't do it all the time. Like, yeah, of course, I get pissed and irritated all the time,
Yeah,
but but
yeah.
but I only allow a certain amount. It's like you
Right.
get this much enough to where I can make jokes about it.
Yep.
But if it's like brewing in my head and my heart, I can't have that.
Nah.
It's not going to happen. You're not allowed to take my joy away from me simply because I can't control how I feel. That's okay. I'll let you irritate me for a little bit. I'll make fun of you, and then I move on, and that's
Yep.
about it.
Dude, and I think that's really critical. I think that's really critical of being able to, examine what are the factors in your life that do influence you and what are they and how much have you let them,
Mhm.
right? It's easy to go like, this thing drives me crazy or like whatever it is. And
Mhm.
we got to travel so much over the last 2 years during the pandemic, like luckily. And you guys have too, right? Like you still traveled. And
Yeah.
so it's crazy getting outside of the US and having a perspective to go, ooh, it's not this way everywhere.
Mhm.
And then just having a minute to go like people who don't leave don't ever realize from looking outside in that there's a way different view of what's going on. That this isn't the entire planet the way just LA is.
It's definitely big metropolitan cities have an issue with this, where they feel like all the issues that they have here is how everybody else feels around the world. You're not that fucking important. You're
No,
really not.
you
You're not
fly
that
east to
special.
west in America, there's no one here.
I know.
It is fucking empty dirt for
Yeah.
most of this country.
That's why, like, when I see stuff on Twitter or Instagram and you see people just up in arms about shit and they're like, "This is how the world is." It's like, "No, that's how your world is."
How
You know
you're
how big the fucking United States is? Mr. LA, Chicago, fucking New York boy? Shut the fuck up. Like, that's how you feel, and that's perfectly fine, but your perspective of the world is this big. It's
Yep.
so fucking small. That's why a lot of people hate it, like, when, us as Americans, when we go to other countries, we always impose how we feel on other people, and I try
Hmm.
to make sure I don't do that.
I
'Cause,
hate
I
I
I
hate it. I'm so bummed being in other countries because like I know that like if I've got to draw a cartoon of France, like it's got a beret and a thin mustache and a long cigarette and it's eating a baguette and a striped shirt.
yeah.
Fucking enjoying these crepes.
Yeah.
But dude, I'm super bummed out that if I'm drawing a cartoon of America, I can't say that it isn't Donald Trump as a baby with shooting guns in the air wearing a Western hat.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I'm like, fuck.
I think too, like, during this time, I really got to evaluate, you know, what my identity is as an American, and kind of more or less like what you were saying, how other people view us, right?
Mm,
And it kind of makes me a little sad because I love this country so fucking much. Like I love this country. I wasn't born here. I love the United States of America. Like the amount of opportunities that we have,
there's
how
nowhere else.
nowhere else, how diverse it can be. It's so fucking amazing. And to see how, you know, and I know a lot of people, young people hate hearing this too. They go, well, because if I say like, hey, look at how some other people live in this world, they go, well, am I not allowed to feel pain? No, bitch. It's supposed to give you perspective, just a little perspective,
Right.
right? So when I look at sometimes, that's why when I was a church boy, we would go on these mission trips, and you got to really see how other people lived and how grateful they were for the small things that they had. So I remember this time when I was out in Mexico in Tijuana, and we were, building homes and doing all of our missionary work. But there was like something really small where there were all these stray dogs in Tijuana, and they're kind of crazy looking, a little mangy,
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm like, oh shit, I'm getting freaked out. And he has something so small where this little kid and the person who was translating for us, the kid asked why I was scared. I was like, I'm scared because these dogs probably have rabies. Like, what the fuck are you talking about? And this kid was like, well, why are you scared when you know that God's going to protect you? And I'm like, "Oh, shit." But even something small like that, right? Perspective really does matter. So I feel like people here, especially our youth in the States, the first thing that they want to do is complain about the life that they have instead of trying to live the best life that they have right now. And
Mm.
it's so hard to see because it's very sad. Like there's no way you can gain happiness from this. And the reason how they gain happiness is finding another community on social media to complain in that same fucking circle. So as miserable people just talking about the misery, thinking that that's going to make them happier, those people will never lift you up ever. You guys
No.
are all going to drag each other down and you guys are going to make yourself feel better about your misery every fucking day. And that's the way that you're going to live. And I'm not saying that it's a temporary part because unless you choose to fix that part, that same group, you're going to grow with that same group and you'll be that way as an adult. And I've been seeing it now. I've been seeing those same people who said like, oh, it's just a phase. And now they're in their 20s and they're still that same person.
Yeah.
And it's so hard to see. It's like, listen, it's not that bad. Yeah, your situation's bad, but you can always change your perspective. And it's not coming from somebody who grew up with shit. Like, listen, I remember when my parents first came here, right? When I first came here, I was 2 or 3. My first language was Korean.
Do you remember anything previous?
Not so much. I have like these weird glimpses of
Okay.
like what Korea was,
I'm
but
always fascinated at like what's people's earliest memory, and if there is such a hard transition at like an early age, do you catch anything from the before?
it's weird. Like I can remember like small glimpses, like 2 or 3 of like me being carried by my grandma in Korea or something, but I don't remember too much. But what I do remember was when I was young and my parents first opened up the store. Like we own a Black Beauty Supply store, right? And being a part of this community that number one,
Yeah, I
we're Korean.
love the hustle of fucking Asians, by the way.
Yeah, like my parents came to this country like we're gonna sell Black Beauty supplies.
Yeah, what's
This
in the
is us.
area? Got it.
Yeah. And so we first opened, I mean, we became a staple part of that community because my dad he's a pastor. He loves everybody, you know. So I remember when we first opened that store, we were so poor we couldn't even afford the shelves to put our products on. It was all on cardboard boxes. So that's the only thing we could display our stuff with. And so when I look at that and I see what we have now, my parents are going to retire next year.
Yeah.
And it's kind of crazy to see this wild ride of like 30 some odd years of how my parents came here and didn't know the language, didn't know anything, and they somehow survived in this country. Obviously with the help of like the Black community supporting and coming, supporting our store. It's kind of crazy to have that perspective and allow me to kind of be grateful for the things that I have. Like even when I don't have as much as everybody else, it doesn't matter what's in your pockets. It's what's here. Like
Yeah.
I had this stuff and it makes me happy.
And I think that growing up with, that perspective is a huge shift in getting to actually see that, I mean, your parents lived the American dream. Like it
Yeah.
is alive and well in your household a hell of a lot more than it is in most of the people I grew up with. You know what I mean? That just ended up doing the 9 to 5, finding the same thing. That negativity you talk about, like that's something I think, like with the internet, especially us who've been involved in that world a long time, dude, we know it and we've talked about it a long time that you always catch the negative comment way more than the 10 nice
Mm.
ones, right? And whether that's we're self-critical or whatever else it is, it gets a better attention from you psychology wise. And so our our news channels have figured that out. So the more they piss you off, the more people watch, which is so unintuitive to what you would think about doing with your audience. Is like, oh, the fucking more angry I'll make them, the more they're into this.
Yeah.
And that's what they've learned. We've told them as a troll, as people who deal with trolls always get more attention than the polite stuff. So why
Mhm.
would we try to push the good and polite? It doesn't get views.
Yeah, I started doing the same thing now where and when I post a video, I read the comments that say nice things and I give them a like.
Yeah, I just
And
delete the others. Fuck them.
yeah, the negative ones too. If it's
I
like
can take
something,
critique. Critique's
yes,
different than being a cunt.
like if it's some random stupid shit, like I'll just block them. And people
Fucking
are like, "Oh, I thought you could take credit." It's not criticism.
peace. No,
Yeah,
you're not
it's
funny.
yeah, it's not criticism, and it didn't even make me laugh. So what's the point of this shit? It's like you can
It,
just go fuck off.
it's the
And
same as some cunt heckler who thinks they're helping the show.
exactly. And you know what the funny thing is too? I'm so much of an asshole. Like what I'll do is that I'll see some stupid comment, I'll write some obscene shit to them, just give them enough time where they read it, and then I'll delete it after. So it's like
Delete it after.
it's like you read it, but I don't have to read what you wrote back. And I know that it's eating you up inside. And then I
Just long-term psychological warfare back at him.
And then I've done the same thing where people will recreate an account and they're like, so after you respond to me, you delete my shit, and I write yup, and then I block it again. And then it makes me feel so good.
Imagine having the energy.
No.
Fuck, dude. Like if you spent any of that time it took to do that, to be like, what if I was to educate myself for 15 more minutes on any subject? It's fucking more valuable.
And the best thing is like these people would never say this to your face ever.
No, and of course they wouldn't. Of
Like,
course they wouldn't. And that's a weird world we live in too. That we do not do conflict in person.
yeah.
We are a wildly savage people.
You know, it's not even just conflict, it's just regular conversation because they're scared to have different perspective that'll change the way that they think. They're scared of that shit. You know, I did a podcast recently that was kind of like hard because I knew a good chunk of people aren't going to want to listen to this, but I had to rectify something that I said in a previous podcast. So it was with the Kyle Rittenhouse, and we were talking about what media did to that kid. When that first came out, they made him sound like he was a vigilante asshole.
Yes.
Every article stated stuff that wasn't opinion. They said it was fact, and we all ate it the fuck up.
No, dude, the Kyle Rittenhouse thing is such a really complicated thing, and there's a lot of nuance to it.
Yeah,
But
and
we
so
don't operate with nuance anymore, and we don't operate with context.
and I had to say on this podcast too, it was like, listen, we could talk about how we feel about the state of this country and what this represents, but we're also talking about the judicial system and this young man's life. So it's a very touchy subject, but we can't want this kid to burn in hell because of how we feel. Right. So I think like when we looked at, because before I did that podcast, it was 6 days of me listening to the whole trial and then looking at the footage,
Yep.
which a lot of people didn't do.
No,
They didn't-
it's really gnarly.
It's crazy. It was a lot more nuanced and complicated than people thought that it was. And so after I explained it, and because I could do a podcast and rather than doing 5-minute videos, a lot of people understood where I was coming from. I was like, listen, let's have a conversation, but you need to do me a favor first. Watch the trial all the way through from beginning and don't skip shit and look at all the footage and see what everybody has to say, then come with your conclusion. And
Do I think he did anything illegal? He didn't.
no.
Do I think he defended himself in a super scary situation? He did.
Mhm.
Do I think he could have not been in that situation by making a few better choices? Absolutely.
Exactly.
But
And
that's not illegal for him to be there.
it's not illegal for when somebody comes attacking him, you know, like
Oh, some dude tried to brain him with a skateboard. We're gonna pretend that ain't a weapon?
there was an actual handgun. Like,
Right.
you know, and it was hard for people. I think that, you know, when people who were really upset at me, they kind of, they just went back to like, well, stuff that wasn't happening in that, in that scenario. And they were just talking about how they feel about how the state of the United States in general. And like, but we're talking about this case. And I can't in good conscience condemn this kid like I did in the previous podcast because of misinformation. So I have to rectify that. And that goes back to personal responsibility. I put that shit out there. So now I have to go take it back and fix it. So, and it's hard for people to do that.
Dude, and everyone wants Kyle Rittenhouse as like this now totem for whatever their side of this thing is to be right, or that, because look, he's not a fucking hero either. It's a real fucking shame, dude, that this 17-year-old kid had to fucking go through that, and now he's fucked. Like, this is not going to be a happy thing, other than he's going to probably do okay with books and stuff like that, and good for him. Good for him, because he fucking deserves it, because the rest of his life's been thrown out of crazy proportion for a night.
And that was the other issue that I said on the podcast was like, it's the rhetoric. Like people kept on calling him a hero. And even he said he wasn't a hero. He's like, I don't want to deal with any of this stuff. People are asking me to,
I just want to go home.
I just want to go. I just want to be a kid. Like, I don't want to be a political pundit or anything.
I didn't do anything illegal. Sick. Let me go home.
Exactly.
I'm really sorry. I have some trauma to fucking unpack now.
Yeah. People are branding his face on American flags. And even the kids like, what the fuck is this? You know, like, I don't want this. So it's just, you know, this is the sad state of like this country sometimes, right? Like we kind of become like political ideologues, and then we just get stuck in our ways. I just want people to sit and have a conversation with somebody and be able to do it without being angry. I have a lot of people during the time when, you know, Trump was president, they supported Trump. They're still my friends. You know, we could have a conversation about it. And if I stated my opinions about stuff, they were okay too.
Yep.
You know, like, and those are the type of people that I want to be around because not everybody's going to agree with the things that you say.
Dude, I don't want to spend time around people who have the exact same concepts and thoughts I do. What the fuck do I learn from that? That's just an echo chamber of my own bullshit. Like,
Yeah,
that's why I have a podcast to talk to people with a different story, different background, and learn your perspective. I'm not
yeah,
here yelling at you for you to jump in on my shit.
yeah. And you know, like I always say too on my podcast, I'm going to be wrong a lot of the times, and then you'll see me change my opinions. It's like, well, did you say this before? Yeah, because I was wrong.
It's wrong. No, we're allowed to be wrong.
Yeah,
That,
I
but
was wrong.
that's another one. That's another one because of the troll culture that I really think is dangerous going forward. That with our politics and stuff like that, we don't allow people to make mistakes in the past. We hold them accountable to everything they've ever done. And right now, ever saying I fucked up is worse than everyone thinking you were wrong. You just can't ever back off on what you decided whenever that was, even if it was archaic and years ago. And the idea that I'd have to be accountable right now for something I said when I was 18,
It's crazy.
there are two things I figured out. There are two things in my life that I've been consistently into and behind since I was young, and it's boobs and cookies. Outside of that, things have come and gone.
Yeah. No, look, I've done terrible things when I was younger too.
Yeah.
You know, I think it's okay to be reprimanded for the stuff that you do now, but if you've changed and become better, I think it's better for me to judge you for the person you are now than you were then, and that's okay, because I want that same grace given to me.
Same.
You know.
Absolutely the same. But we don't give that to our leaders.
Oh yeah.
And so with that, they're going to lie to us. And I believe from the whole accountability thing, that's our fault. And that's our fault as a country because we don't allow grace. And if we're not going to allow grace and these people are actually human, which that's questionable, it's
yeah.
They're going to lie to us.
Yeah.
Like we learned that at the very beginning of the pandemic. And that was one of the more telling things that I just took from the whole thing. I'm not right or left on it and don't fucking care. It was my government said, we don't need masks. And then 2 weeks later said, we do need masks. We also knew that we did, but we need them to get to first responders and we need them to be in the hospitals. That is a virtuous reason to lie to us.
Yeah.
But you fucking lied to me. And the reason you lied to me and the cards you played is you think I'm too fucking stupid to handle the problem maturely, which we are not mature enough to handle it. That's why toilet paper went the way it
I know.
This is why they lied to us. We've told them you fucking have to.
Yeah.
We will not handle this maturely. Like, make no mistake, if we found out that in 6 months from now a comet was going to hit LA, ain't no one saying shit.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. It's weird, man. Like I'm kind of like a little annoyed that the pandemic is lasting this long, but kind of good that it happened because, like I said, it actually allowed a lot of people to see who they really are and to see who the people around us really are too. Um, even for my personal relationship with Mariel, like we grew a lot because of pandemic. Prior to pandemic, I was traveling so much, I never was really around the house because I had to work all the time, and then I had to be around this woman 24/7. I was like, oh shit, you know, and we really, really got to know each other. And there was a point too early on in the pandemic, we decided to split. I was like, this isn't going to work out. And we had this really weird point where I had a hard conversation with her and she had a hard conversation with me where we told each other, like, listen, like, if you left tomorrow, I think I'd be okay. Like, that's how much this isn't working anymore.
That's a real talk.
Yeah. And, you know, like I said, I don't want to waste time. And I was like, if I'm okay with you not being here the next day, then we're not in a good space. And after that, you know, we found a family or a couples counselor, and then we started talking about certain things, and we got to know each other a lot better. And now our relationship is stronger than it ever was before.
Right.
So, but that took us sitting here and me having to actually get to know her because there was things that I didn't like about her, right? And I
Yeah,
just and I just never was honest about it.
for sure, right? But you're also not around.
Yeah.
There's a difference in like I've told that to people as living with partners and stuff like that I've had in the past, and then fucking being married for 13 years. Like, the weirdest thing that happened after my divorce and like starting a new relationship was I didn't realize how much shorthand I had with my partner. from like my previous marriage. I'm like, oh, we don't have to communicate about so many things
Mm,
because you already know what I was thinking because you've been around for a fucking decade.
yeah.
And rebuilding that with a new person it's been really interesting. And I could also catch myself with a new relationship wanting to like, oh, well, this is how I did things before. And wanting to implement this comfort of like, but this is how I like it. And
Yeah.
I remember catching myself and being aware enough to be like, yo, what the fuck are you doing? You left a thing. Don't shape this back into a thing that you left.
Oh,
Like, why would you
100%.
why would you fucking do that?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And those old habits are super hard to break. You know, especially stuff that we got from our parents that we don't even fucking know about. Ooh, let me tell you something. I didn't realize this. Like my dad makes fun of my mom a lot, right? And she
Okay.
fucking hates it. I do the same shit. And I didn't realize it. I was like, damn, I think I
I
kind of
just
joke
bust
around.
balls constantly.
Yeah. I was like, I think I'm doing this too much. And then I started realizing when I went back home, right? I went back home to see some of my old friends. And I was like, oh, I know why I make fun of people so much is because they always make fun of me. And
Yeah.
I go in the first and they go, what's up, idiot? I'm like, all right, it's gonna be a long day. You
Yeah.
know? I'm like, this is where I got this from. And then I had to realize, like, listen, she's not one of my guy friends. You know, she's a partner. Like she's
Noted. Yeah, I had to learn that as well.
yeah. I was like, I gotta maybe relax a little bit on that stuff, you know? But
No
she's
shit. No shit. Man, it's something else like, with that I've been thinking about recently, looking at just timeline of how things have been. And our generation, that's come up through this now social media platforms and stuff like that. Our parents' generation was a bit more straightforward.
mm,
Like you got a job and there were these type of things, and their generation before them was very much like, we came out of the depression and shit was rough. The luxury you and I live in compared to our grandparents is fucking gnarly.
yeah,
And our parents were do what you're told, which was what our parents tried to put on us. But there was also this message of like you can be anything you want. They
exactly.
never had.
Yeah.
And
It's
then
so
like some
confusing.
of us were like, yo, you said I could do anything I want, so I'm gonna work on that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Uh, and a lot of people just follow their path. And so the thing I think that's interesting right now is if we were to look at like today, because there's so many shifts right now with social media, like whether it's algorithms or who wants to bitch about how any of these things work and how to engage with the audience, and I've been shadow banned or fucking whatever.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
No one cares about your 300 fucking subscribers. You're not shadow banned.
I know.
Fucking hell.
Nobody knows you.
Right. You're just not doing great at this thing.
Yeah.
Uh, and so like if I look back 15 years and then forward 15 years. And so like we're dead in the middle of this timeline right now. Like the last 5 to 6 years of just what social media did and the amount of money that can be made or anything like that. It's the wild fucking west. Like there'll be a time that like we're the first generation of people that made a living from creating content online. This will be a thing that never goes away again.
Yeah.
This wasn't a job when we were kids and now will always exist.
Yeah.
And that's a fucking real and we got there at jump.
Mhm.
And so like I remember even thinking like, oh, I'm late to the game because it had been 6 years. Like, yo, this is never going away. You're not late.
Yeah.
Fucking get going now.
I was considered late too because Bart and Joe and Gio, they already started like 4 years ahead of that I did.
Yeah, they
So
had to code their videos in, I'm sure.
yeah. Yeah, when I came in, I was like, "Oh, I might be a little late to this," but, you just kinda pursue what you do, and even now being on the space, what, like 12 years? Like, I didn't think I was gonna be doing this for that long, and most
It
people
wasn't a job.
yeah, it was just for fun.
And now what it's pivoted into, right? Like you're one of those people that for me, I've got living proof that anything's possible.
Mhm.
I see it and I get to see it in my friends. And I think what a change that is to me to like, I get to witness it and see it's real.
Yeah.
And I mean, you're the same way. Like, the people you're surrounded by are also hustling and crushing it and fucking, and building their worlds too.
Yeah. I'm
Um,
it is good to be around those type of people too because it gives you good perspective and it allows you to push forward. Like if people weren't motivated around me, I wouldn't be doing as well as I am now.
no,
Like you're always like the closest people around you. That's who you are. So like even Bart just working out and being fit probably, fuck me up in my head to want me to change my life too. I make jokes about this, but I didn't know I was fat. I was
Come
just
on.
I was just chilling. I was like, oh, and then
This is something I've always wondered about because I was like, man, if I honestly like looked in the mirror and nothing registered, not good or bad, I mean just 100 complete indifference, I could be so good at food.
yeah. Tell you something. I had no idea. I was walking around just like, dude, man, I'm fit. I had no fucking clue. Yeah, there'll be fat jokes here and there, but I'm like, I'm a little chubby, whatever. And then, when I got on the scale, and then in my mind, the last time I was on a scale was probably, I don't know, fucking when I was in high school or some shit. And then I'm like, I'm probably still like 210, 215, and this shit like 290. I was
Ooh,
like, I was like, damn, this scale's broken. I was like, no personal responsibility, you know? And then I would go try to put on my clothes. It's like an XL, and the XL doesn't fit. I'm like, damn, man, these French ass European shirts don't fit.
European cuts.
Yeah,
Always someone else.
it's always something else, right? And then what really happened was like, even something. This is the funniest shit that me and my buddy used to talk about because he also lost like 100 pounds. We lost weight around the same time. And it would be like, yeah, everybody has diarrhea every day. That's just how shit's supposed to be, baby. But you go so far as to like just excuse all this terrible behavior to the point where it's normalized.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is just the
Dude, my
worst.
biggest, that was like 320.
Jesus.
Like I get it, man. I can put food away and like, what do you mean you don't shit immediately after every meal?
At least you were strong, dude. I was fat and I couldn't open up a jar of pickles. It was the worst.
I could have pushed a finger through.
I was soft as hell. And then that breaking point, actually, I talked about David Goggins. I listened to a podcast with David Goggins, and that one podcast actually changed my life.
Yeah.
Because he talked about himself. He was heavier than I was. And we're the same height. And I was like, wait, how the fuck was this guy worse than I am? But then look at how he is now. And he always talked about, it's like, you don't have to do what I do. You just have to compare yourself to the person you were the day before.
Shit.
And then it unlocked something. And I was like, okay, I'm expecting fast results, but I just have to be better than who I am yesterday. So
that's it. One step.
That's all it took. I just started walking. And then in the first month, I think I lost a pound. And then something happened in the second month where I lost like 15. And then I started, researching what food would do to your body. And I started looking up different modalities of it. I was eating everything, bro. Like,
what food would do to your body?
Yeah, I didn't know this shit. Let me tell you what I would eat.
I love it, dude, because it's like the only fuel source that's going into this goes right here.
Yeah.
Why would this be it doesn't matter what it goes in. Mud or fucking
food is food, bro. And I'm just like, dude, everybody has such good metabolism. Like, no, you ate 6,000 calories today.
Right. You find me somebody talking about metabolism who's surrounded by a bunch of fucking apple cores and banana peels. No, Taco Bell bags.
I know.
And your glands.
Exactly. Dude, one of the funniest shit that I ever heard, it was like, people are like, yo, I'm big boned. I was like, no, you're not big boned.
Thing.
You're fat meated. That's what you are, dude. Like, that's what
when I was a kid, I remember people talking about big bone. Like that was an actual medical condition.
Yeah.
Like in the South. And like I remember someone being like, that's not real, right? I'm like, fuck do you mean?
like somebody's gonna dig up this body, right? And then be like, well, these are some big ass bones. Like, no, bro, some regular ass human bones.
Just all look like Hapthor.
He might have some big bones.
He should be locked in a cage and studied.
I know. I just follow him just to look at him. I'm like, what?
He looks like one of the architects from Prometheus. Like
yeah.
He just looks like you've maxed out a video game character.
And I, when he's like, I'm gonna box, I'm like, no, we don't need you to learn how to fight. That's the last thing anybody needs. I just need you to not do that.
Dude, laws exist, so he's not king.
I know. Like, yeah, I'm gonna learn how to box and make these things into lethal weapons. I'm like, you could fart and kill somebody, bro. You're
Look
good.
At what he's changed his body, right?
Yeah,
incredible. And like, talk about managing fear, right? Like, he went from being the best in the world in his field and realizing, like, I'll start over something new.
I know. That's how scary is that?
Champ, dude.
I just like watching people just try new things. It's pretty fucking awesome. Like watching people grow. I think that's why I also like watching my friends succeed. It makes me feel really good. It also motivates me. Like when they get a new house,
It means
they
something's possible.
yeah. When I hear my friends like one of my I was talking to a friend recently, he goes like, "You know, you're the only person that I know that I don't mind sharing like these new deals that I get with money because I don't feel like you're judging me or anything." I was like, "No, I want you to tell me this because it makes me feel good and it makes me want to work harder too. Not because I'm competing against you, it's because you inspire me. So when you tell me like, yo, I just got this deal, $300,000 came in, I'm not jealous of that. I'm happy because I
Right.
care about you. So it makes me motivated. It makes me want to work harder too because I want to feel that way too for myself."
Well, it's really tough being around people that operate out of scarcity. And
Yeah.
and that idea that because you got some deal means I didn't.
Mhm.
And that's not how it fucking works.
Yeah.
And man, being around like that was something I'd kind of taken note of last year with a couple like other groups of my friends when I was like, "Oh, you don't have any friends that are peers."
Mm.
And I realized that I'm like, "You don't have anyone that you can talk to about how weird your life is."
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Because
yeah, yeah.
Because like, dude, I know it because our lives get weird with whatever the projects are, and it doesn't mean that they're not stressful or that we're not grateful for it. But I've got a thing coming up where I have a 6 day motorcycle trip that we're shooting with Indian motorcycles,
Wow.
and the day we'll drive from like Charleston, South Carolina to the tip of the Keys in
That's
Florida.
crazy.
So like 6 days. Bart and Gio are coming. Um, and then back to Miami, and then me, Bonnie, and my media guy Brant get on a flight the next morning and go to Patagonia for a week for another trip for like a work thing. Both are fucking awesome, but you understand now that like 6 days worth of shooting and producing a show to get on a flight to go out of the country for another week from a town that you don't live in.
Listen, I'd die.
Right, 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 right.
I would die.
I'm like,
I'm listening to
you
this, I'm
can't,
getting
no, no,
anxiety.
I can't complain to my cousin about that.
Yeah.
A cousin who hasn't been on an airplane.
Yeah.
I'm a prick.
Yeah. I listened to what you just said and I'm like, "Don't do it."
Don't do it,
Like, "Don't do it." Like, I just
man. Be uncomfortable.
yeah. I'm like,
Yeah,
"Holy shit."
it's the same for me too. Like last year, I got to go to Africa, and we went to Dubai, and the
That's
Africa
awesome.
going to whitewater raft was gnarly.
That's crazy, man. Like I love the way that you live life though, because it's just based on like being happy. And it's not based on somebody else's standard of what happiness is. And it's just the life goal that I feel like everybody should chase. It might not be for everybody, but the idea of chasing your personal happiness and also being a responsible adult and human being at the same time
Yeah,
can work together, you
yeah.
know?
And I think I don't know that everyone knows what their happiness is.
Mm,
I think that there's some idea of what's supposed to be, but not everyone has fixated on what happiness is for them. And it took me a long time to kind of boil it down. And for me, is my ultimate goal of life is I want to be able to spend as many days of the rest of my life doing whatever the fuck I want.
yeah.
That's creating or whether it's travel or doing like, I'm not saying not stressed.
Yeah.
I'm not saying laying in the basement. Like, I want to accomplish big shit. And so those seeds got to get planted and we got to move toward it and we have to have goals and we have to do these other things. I don't want to do things out of obligation anymore. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. That's I think that is the shit right there. I'm not obligated to do anything that I don't want to do, you know? And even like things that make you uncomfortable, like people might think like, well, those aren't things that you want to do too, but it's growth. There's an end goal to it. That's different. So it's been such a weird journey. Like I never thought that I'd be at number one, like the stage in life that I'm at now, the level of success, and also the mental clarity that I would have at this age. Um, and I'm kind of glad I'm figuring it out a little earlier than some of my other friends are, or even not
Sure.
even friends. These are like my people that I know. Because now I get to live out the rest of my life truly pursuing happiness.
Yeah, man.
And it's hard too, by the way. And I think people should hear this too. It's like your goals or your definition of happiness is always going to change. It's and that's okay. That's
Dude,
that's
being comfortable with that is another tricky one. To be like, yeah, I'm not into it anymore. You said that from jump, and dude, I love that so much. And I don't know anyone with that full of an approach that you have to it. Of
mhm.
just like, I did that. Move on.
Yeah, and that's okay.
Dude,
So
I love it.
it feels good, man. If it really feels good, and also too, like me being a happier person allows me to be a better person too.
Sure.
It allows me to, like I said, set boundaries with people, and allows me to be a better friend that way. Because like one of the most difficult things too when you develop a relationship with somebody is somebody who isn't honest. And if they're not honest, you don't know who that person's going to be the next day. And I hate that shit. Likable people doesn't mean that they're good people.
No, dude. Likeable people are salesmen.
Exactly.
I can sniff you out a mile away, dude. I did outside sales for a decade. I
And
know who you are, motherfucker.
I learned that shit the hard way. I experienced it when I first moved to LA once, and it never happened again. I
Yeah.
was like, "Oh, you say the right things." And I was like, "Oh," and I had to call that motherfucker out. The guy took a job from me. He took the money and he didn't give me my project because he said all the right things that made me believe that he was a good person. And I had to go into a phone call where I was like, "Listen, I'm actually in front of your fucking house right now. Like, either give me what's owed to me or I'm gonna break down this fucking door and we're gonna have a fucking problem with my fucking. I can't open up a jar of pickles, but I'll do something, you know."
I'll
But
make fun of you.
yeah, I'll make fun of you for 8
Very
hours
embarrassed.
outside.
I
But
brought a tea. This voice is going to be just fine.
you know what? I took Barbell Brigade pre-workout. I'm good
I
for the
got a
next 10 days.
microphone. I don't even have to get loud.
I know all your dirty secrets. I'm telling all your neighbors.
Has the path like I mean, because you're in such a more traditional media now, like with I guess producing, not producing, but being on stuff with Netflix or Sundance or any of that. Like, how sketchy have the gatekeepers in that world been?
Hollywood is very interesting because look, there's a lot of great people, right? If you
Mhm.
meet the right people. But it's like any other corporate machine. There's a lot of kiss assery. There's a lot of like pretend and play. One of the difficult parts about me is that I don't pretend and play.
Right.
So so I didn't know about this, but I went to an event recently that I was invited to, and just talking to people and just asking them straight up. It's like, hey, so what do you know about me? What do you think about me? And
Ooh.
I have no problem just asking that. And you know, people are scared. I was like, why are you scared? It's like because they're like, you say what's on your mind. Like if you don't like somebody, you don't like something, you say it. And most people don't function like that. I'm like, oh, so that's a problem. And it was kind of nice because I always felt it, but it was nice hearing it.
Mm.
So it was like, oh, okay. So it's not something that I just felt, and it's
What if
not
I
a.
tone that down 25%?
I can't do it. So it's like if I don't like somebody, I don't like them. I don't go out of my way to let them know, though. Like I'm completely cordial,
Yep.
but I'm not going to sit there and laugh at your jokes when I don't find it funny.
I'm
I'm
not
not going to. I'm not obligated to do any of that
not
shit.
obligated to make you think you're funny. I'm
Exactly.
doing you a favor. You should be getting better at this.
Exactly. So like I just like, oh cool. Like, well, just because I don't laugh or kiss ass, it doesn't mean that I'm not being cordial,
Right.
right? I'm very respectful. I'm kind, I'm smiling, I'm talking to the person. But if I'm not kissing your ass, it doesn't mean I'm being disrespectful. You're just used to that environment. That's not who I am. And by the way, if I don't get a job, if I don't get an opportunity because I'm not sucking up, I'm okay with that though.
I don't want that job anyway.
Yeah, like
Because then,
I'm
'cause then the
okay.
table's been set of what the relationship is.
Exactly. I'm okay. If they
Yeah.
want me, they want me. If they don't, that's okay. Because at the end of the day, I'm happy. My lights are on. I have food in my stomach. I'm good to go. I don't need to be on another project and another one and another one. If they feel like I'm valuable and I can do it, then please hire me. Uh,
Do you remember the first time that like you had a thing come up and you're like, I don't have to do that? Because man, I get like taking it as they come and trying to work and like, you don't say no to shit on the come up.
mhm. I think I think it's when I had that conversation with my mom about the money thing. It's like you have more than enough.
Yeah.
So why are you out here begging, like with your palms open, like, please give me something? It's like, what are you doing? Like, like, is it worth it? Like, is this worth it? Like none of this fucking because I'll tell you like this too. Like being a quote unquote celebrity, listen, in this space, if I stop creating content for 3 months,
Weak. Yeah, you fucking
I'm done. Like nobody gives a fuck about me anymore, except for the few maybe 20,000 people that watch the podcast and stuff. They're gonna miss it the most, and that's why I focus on them the most.
Yep.
New followers are great. Come along the journey if you like, but the people that have supported me since day one, I'm gonna put my energy into you because
Dude,
you
that
guys are
that
the ones that matter.
that's something that I've come to realize, and I'm a bit too slow on the draw of, and I've really realized it lately. And it is, I mean, the truth is, for supporting my business or supporting the things that Bonnie and I want to do in our lives, like if we look at followers, right, of whatever I have plus hers plus the brand, and if I look at what orders come through and how many orders that equals, it's less than 1% of the people that follow us buy shit from us.
Yeah.
And that still supports my existence. And so, I don't, why am I chasing hands or interest from other people when there's this many people that have already raised their hand that are interested that aren't being served? So
Yeah.
why wouldn't I do better to help the people that have already raised their hand and said, I'm interested in what you guys are about, instead of constantly trying to fucking placate to some other crowd? That it, it'd be like if I built my following showing ass pics and then I don't understand why no one wants to buy t-shirts from me. Like, yo, that ain't why they showed up.
That is that is the biggest thing. And when I work with brands, one of the things that they notice about me is that I convert the highest. And it's because I stop worrying about the bigger numbers. Hold on one second. Give me
What do you
one
think?
second. I'll be right back.
No worries.
I had a little buddy drop off a jar of kimchi that she made. She's like
Perfect.
the youngest old person that I ever met.
Just
Like,
straight Asian grandma dropping
yeah.
off.
See this 27-year-old girl, and then she made me a jar of kimchi. I was like, that's the oldest fucking thing I've seen you do. Like, what the fuck are you doing?
She starts her morning with Tai Chi as well, of course.
She's so funny. I mean, just to go back to be Tai Chi, the like people who inspire me. I met this girl when she was 18 years old at a college, and she wanted to be a content creator. And I saw so much potential in this girl. She was doing stuff that people do now,
Hmm.
like back at like 8 years ago. Eight,
She
nine
was
years
already
ago.
on TikTok.
She was like doing TikTok. She was doing all this other weird stuff. But the way she would edit her videos were so unique. And I've been like slowly pushing this girl. It's like, listen, I know you don't like your corporate job. Like, I know you don't like this stuff. And you have, but everything takes time, right? So
Mhm.
just last year, she quit all her corporate job and she did YouTube full time. And now she's doing it for a living. And she's doing really fucking well.
Dude, that's awesome.
And watching her succeed and grow, it's so satisfying. Like, I don't know what it is.
Yeah.
It's,
No,
you know,
dude, for sure it is. For sure it is. I recently started a mentorship group, and that's one of those things I've been on the fence about. And it's been fucking rad. It's been really cool working with people and just being a resource that can help them problem solve and help them be around other people that are interested in growth, and not, the 20 people that don't understand why you want to try harder.
and that's awesome too. I think like the great thing is when you put time into people and making them into a better person, you're also creating a better world.
Yeah.
Like, imagine if these people just live their whole life without guidance and they haven't figured it out, they'd be miserable. But when you do a good job and you create good people around you, they're going to spread that same type of love and, affection towards other people. And a lot of people don't think about that shit either. Like, helping other people helps everybody else. That's why that idea of having a strong community is super important. Knowing who your neighbors are, all like having conversations with people. Like, if you don't spread all the knowledge and joy that you have to other people, then what's the fucking point, man? Like,
Point, dude.
yeah,
That's part of why I love the podcast so much. And it's like, there's plenty of narcissism with it that it gets in my way occasionally, and I find funny of like, it'd be great. The conversations with me and my buddies are so good. People should pay to listen to this. But at the same time, like, I have access to people that are doing different things than me. And what a disservice it would be to not share different perspectives and conversations if I have a chance to know that those are the things that shaped me, and I get to share a little bit with it with someone else. That's what I want. Maybe that's the spark. Maybe that's the thing that they go, huh, I don't have to do it that way.
and that's the thing. Just to wrap it back to like on the deathbed, how good is it to look back at that? To say like, yo, I've helped other people out. And people can say what it is. Like, so are you really helping people out of the goodness of your heart? It's like a little bit. And also the fact that I feel good when I do it. It's
Yeah.
both. It's a little bit of both.
I like that you picture yourself on a deathbed. I'm going to go ahead and say old age isn't the one that gets me. I'm going to go, mine's probably going to be pretty abrupt.
Yeah. What's the thing I always tell my friends? For some people always say this to me. They go, you know what? I'm going to remember you when you die. It's like, wait, why the fuck are you always outliving me? Like,
Right.
why am I the one dying first, bitch? Like, what kind of sorry backhanded compliment is this?
No shit, huh? Oh man. But dude, you've crushed it, man, and I find it so inspiring between you just being able to take that wheel of like what actually makes me happy. What do I do to produce that? What keeps me fired up and inspired in creating the stuff I want to create? And you're doing it on your fucking terms, dude. Like the thing, like the term I've come into being used, and whether that's you guys with JK or Bart and Geo or Steffi and Hayden are our friends in that world, or Rob and Dana or the guys that I'm friends with On It, or any of these things, like these are universe creators.
Yeah.
They've built their own fucking worlds. Like they've
Yeah.
made everything that they're into and it's branded and lovely and it's their things. And they've realized that like, well, I don't like the current backpacks that exist. I wonder if I could make a better backpack. And then fuck, you can.
And
And
isn't
like,
it crazy too? It's like, you mentioned scarcity mentality. There's room for everybody to eat. Just because on it exists, it doesn't mean that hate brand doesn't exist.
dude, until Nike wants to give me a phone call and say I'm selling too many t-shirts, I don't exist.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like ain't none of us on the fucking planet.
Yeah. And everybody can eat. And it's one of those things too, just I never realized how many brands there are that are successful that we don't know about.
Of course. Magic infinites.
It's like, wait, you're a high seven-figure company. I've never heard of you.
Right? I've never heard of you.
Yeah, it's like,
Good
how the
work.
fuck? Like, yeah, like we bring in like 20 mil a year, and I'm like, how have I
Just
never heard?
casual.
Yeah, like, oh, so there's room for everybody.
Dude, room for everyone. Because there's so many people, right? And like especially with apparel. Or
Mhm.
let's say comedy. At what point are there too many laughs in the market?
I know. Oh, we're laughing a little too much, I
A
think.
little too many. The quota's been up by. We finished on the 10th of the month, where no more laughter allowed.
Yeah, and that's the thing too. Like, something that I think young people should really realize is that, supporting people around, like your friends' businesses too, also helps you out as well,
Yep.
right? Like, for example, like, when I bought your stuff, right? I don't I didn't buy it and be like, I'm not going to show people I have this because like people are going to spend money on Matt stuff. It's like,
Sure.
no, there's always room for everybody.
Yeah, dude. If you're stoked, you're stoked.
You're
Eh,
still, you like it, you wear it, and it's all good. Like I do something now when it comes to like fitness gear. I stopped buying a lot of stuff from like Nike and Adidas
mhm.
when I work out. I buy it from your brand, Barbell, or Mike's.
Yeah, we're lucky enough to have friends that are creating rad stuff, and like to me, that's the only vote I get is where I spend my dollars.
Mhm.
And if I'm serious about supporting my friends, like this is how. Like I don't need a discount, dude. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? I'd love to support. I'd love to do that, and it's so cool seeing everyone get a chance to try.
Yeah, and supporting people with like my friends with my dollars makes me feel really good.
Same.
Except, your fucking shit is always out, and then Barbell's shit is always out. So I'm just like, all right, maybe I have to get on these launches every now and then. I'm always a
What people
little
don't
bit late.
know, we only make 5 of them.
I'm like,
we
shit.
we keep trying to harness this scarcity model of business, yet no one's getting on board.
I'm like, every time I'm like,
Just
okay,
always looks sold out.
I'm like, I'm gonna get these shorts. And then I go, it's gone. I'm like, you son of a bitch. And then I go to barbell shit. I'm like, I'm gonna get their amphibious shorts, and it's gone in a day. I'm like, okay. I went to 3rd Street and I was trying to buy one of their shirts, and it was gone. I'm like, okay, I gotta get on these jumps now. But it's
Start
so
getting on
fun.
the email list.
I know.
Gotta catch it like everybody else.
It's fun though, because like I like wearing stuff that I know who made it. Right.
Yeah.
And that's the idea of kind of relinquishing yourself from like buying things too that will get you recognized from other people. It's like, I like this stuff because my friends made it and it's dope shit. And it's
Yeah.
arguably better than the stuff that's out there. So it's like, why not just spend my money here? You know?
Right. Right. No,
Anyways.
so with all the content that you create, from podcasts to host on TV shows to guest judge, um, what do you like doing the most?
I like them all equally. I don't get, but it's that idea of like having that checklist. So it's
Mhm.
like, let's say all of that shit disappears. I'm okay. Yeah,
Yeah,
like,
sure, but like, I mean, do you like being in front of the camera more or directing?
I think I actually don't like being in front of the camera. I
They just keep asking me.
yeah, I'm actually a crazy introvert. Like
Sure, of course.
I'm hyper introverted. So one of the
Which is
things
why you're really good at a bunch of stuff.
I just like kind of just keep to myself and I work in this small little space. And even with my fiance, she only found this out recently. Like she would have these mixers and these events, prior to pandemic. And she was like, how come you don't ever want to go? Like, this is what you do. I was like, yeah, it's what I do. It's my job.
It's a job.
I have to mentally prepare myself. I was like, you don't know, before I do stand up and before I do these shows or whatever, I sit all day and I have to mentally prepare myself for being exhausted.
Yeah.
And so she saw it one time. So we went to one of these events. It was an end of the year event. And I was there just chopping it up with everybody, making jokes. Everybody remembered me. And at home, dead behind the eyes.
Yeah,
She's
dude,
like,
slaughtered.
yeah. She's like, what's wrong? I'm like, that was the most exhausting thing I've done in a very long time. And I was like,
Dude, like, yeah, do 3 podcasts in a day.
oh,
You're fucking trashed.
so when I do podcasts, I usually shoot about 2 a day.
Yeah.
And so the rest of the day, done. This thing is not working anymore.
No, dude, gun. Yeah, absolutely, absolutely throttled. Or, when we would do trade shows and be like at the Arnold or something like that at that booth, like being on all day.
Oh,
It's work. One of the hardest hosting things I've ever did was with On It, and Aubrey and them's Fit for Service. I hosted this tribal games. They hosted this kind of competition thing.
I saw that. That shit looks so fun.
So fucking fun, dude. Their whole Fit for Service thing is incredible. And getting to host that, like, was a real challenge because I was really nervous going into it and really scared because, like, these are people I look up to that host this thing and this is their community. I've been entrusted with the opportunity to make it better. And so, like, I have to fucking perform and deliver.
Yeah.
And the athlete wants, like, I want nothing more than to be in there and compete, but I can't anymore. Like, too high of a risk with the injury of how shitty my body is. But man, being able to just go and do, my goal was at the end of that 6 hours, at the end of that competition, that whoever was the last to go got the same energy from me as the people who went up first. They fucking deserve it.
Yeah.
They deserve it. And when I finished, dude, and sat down, I was so emotionally gassed. It was like the end of, like, being at a world championship for me, of like, I'm teary and I'm like, I'm done. I don't have anything left.
Yeah.
That's exactly what I wanted.
The exact opposite of is somebody like Joe. Joe is an extrovert to the max. So when Joe hangs out with people, performs or whatever, he gets this juice and this energy and he wants to do it again and again and again. I'm the opposite. It's like, I did it. I need to be away now. Excuse me. Like, I need to just be away for a second so I could come back and be re-energized to do it again. And I was like, oh, there's a difference here. Like, he is an extrovert to the fucking max, like to the point where he doesn't even know how exhausted he is. So he'll just derive energy from other people. And then at the end of the day, like when we were in Hawaii, we were out all day just beach hopping, swimming, snorkeling, hiking, doing all this other stuff. And when we got back to Waikiki, to our hotel, we were all exhausted. And then Joe was like, dude, I'm ready to go again. Let's go somewhere else. He didn't know how tired he was. He sat on the couch and he knocked out for 6 hours.
Of course. Of course. I know, like, so my personality ends up kind of going back and forth.
Mm-hmm.
I've been better at cultivating the introvert side to be able to, like, look at things instead of just plowing ahead like a bulldozer. But man, there's no doubt about that like Joe's one of those dudes that I know similar is, like, I bet if you hold him still for 45 minutes, he falls asleep.
Yeah.
Like, you just fucking put a blanket over his head like a bird. He's fucking out.
Yo, me and Joe were at a funeral once, and this dude, he's so ADD and he can't sit still. I've never seen somebody squirm while everybody's crying and wailing around him, and he's just like this as a full-grown man at a funeral, just
like a kid, like a little kid, just fucking fidgeting,
just squirming. I'm like, bro, somebody died, dude. He's one of the funniest people I've ever met in my life.
Man, the exposure that I got to you guys through, I mean, most likely through Silent Mike introducing me to Bart and Gio. I love the fucking watch the way you guys operate. I fucking love it. I love Joe's lifestyle. I love Bart's. I love yours. I love that Joe's got a studio apartment with a samurai thing in it. Like, I love that Joe's a fucking lunatic.
No, dude,
and you guys all travel that way. And I love that you're not playing by anyone else's rules. And that looks really apparent from the outside.
what I really liked about this group too was how we also allow each other to just not like the stuff that we like.
Yeah.
Like, it's like we will go travel, and then Joe's like, "I wanna go, jump off a cliff butt naked, dick out." And I'm like, and he goes like, "I'll be back." And like,
I'll
"Cool."
be back. Yeah.
Yeah. We
Yeah.
don't
This
go
is for
like
me. I don't need you to jump in. Yeah. You don't have to co-sign.
yeah, like there's no this when we travel where we go, "Hey, we need to do this together, and if we don't, I'm mad at you." And there's a
Yeah.
lot of people like that. I'm just like, "Oh, if it's not my thing, I'm not gonna do it. That's cool. Let's meet up later and let's do some other shit that we like," right? Because I have a deathly fear of heights.
Yeah.
So they know I can't. I get like the fear is not the part that gets me is the vertigo. So I'll like
Good.
pass out, which is fucking annoying. So
You'll actually like lose it?
yeah, I didn't know I had when I was a kid, I used to climb shit all the time. I don't know what happened because I used to get on roller coasters and everything, but the first time I ever experienced it when I was in Chicago and I looked up at a tall building and I fucking passed out.
Passed out.
Yeah. I
Went to the
actually
ground.
blacked out for a second and I was like, what the fuck was
Shit.
that? And so I went to the doctor. It's like, you have vertigo.
Yeah.
I was like, what the fuck is vertigo?
An old Alfred Hitchcock movie?
Yeah, I was like, the fuck is this shit? I was like, I ain't no bitch.
You
It's like,
You're
I
gonna
was
put
like,
an Epley maneuver on me and let me reset my ears?
I was like, my doctor called me a bitch. He was like, no, I said you had vertigo, dude. But ever since then, when I get at like in really weird heights, I start getting dizzy. So it's like, what the fuck? It's kind of annoying. But ever
Yeah.
since then, yeah, I'm like, what is this? Why am I getting dizzy? And now I have a fear of heights.
Now you have to
So
take up hang gliding to come over.
I was like, well, I said I like being uncomfortable.
And he's asleep.
I just asleep and just
And
flying down.
narcolepsy. He was very peaceful on the way in.
I did a roller coaster yesterday just for the show that I'm doing.
Oh.
And
So what are you currently working on?
so we have a show right now that we shot. It's called Dudes Behind the Foods. It's a project I do with Tim. Right now it's I'm working. We just relaunched Secret Society after 2.5 years because of pandemic, and
Yeah.
that has been the response that I had like when we came back was actually unreal. We had so many orders, I didn't expect it. So like we kind of got wrecked with that. But
Yeah, good problems.
yes, it is a good problem because I was expecting like, a few orders here and there, 2.5 years, almost 3 years of not putting anything out. You don't think people are willing to buy the product again. But sent out an email, people were waiting, and we damn near sold out of everything. And I was like, oh, okay. And so this is our last go at this. Like I did a couple of clothing brands before without really knowing what it takes to make clothes. And when people ask is like, hey, what should I do to do a clothing brand? I'm like, just don't do it.
Don't.
It's so
It's a great response. Just don't do it. It's fucking really hard.
hey, out of all the things I've ever tried, and I'm talking about where I was getting punched in the face every day, this is the hardest. This is so
I
hard.
should find another thing to do for a living, David.
Yo, your life is hard. This is so fucking hard. It changes, it moves so fast. And you want to talk about being in a space where you constantly have to be creative? This is hard.
No.
You know?
We drop stuff 3 times a month.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
We're not even
We
there.
ramped it up last year, and I was like, what's the most that we can stomach? We did 2 drops a week for a quarter. Like 2 brand new drops and like new content around it, everything. And like we're like, okay, so we found the upper limit that'll kill us. But the answer to growth isn't 3 drops.
I've definitely got my ass kicked. So we did
Yeah.
this, we did Go for Broke with Bart and Joe. And
Yeah.
then that did really well. And but even then at that time, like we didn't know what we were doing with it. And everything that I built has a brand identity of kind of to kind of put it simply, it's like I want to make things accessible,
Yeah.
right? That's my biggest key. With the matcha, it's a high quality matcha that's for the everyday person. It may not look like, this Japanese geisha's coming here and whisking your shit, but it's that same quality tea. You just don't know it. And it's at a cheaper price than everywhere else. Because I like accessibility. I don't like elitism. I don't like hoity-toity shit. I don't like people looking down at somebody for not having the things that they have.
You sold all that bullshit.
Yeah, I'm good with
All
that
your
shit.
hype beast shit.
Exactly. Like all the shoes that I have now, it's like shoes that I wear. If I don't put it on my feet, it doesn't go in my closet. Period. End of story. I don't give a fuck. So
Yep.
I sold all that shit. Even with Secret Society, like the guys that I work with, they worked in high-end fashion brands. and everything that we make is legit. If we do use some what do you call it, blanks here and there,
Hmm.
but we source them right. But even like our oversized tees, they're all cut and sew.
Oh yeah.
Our margins isn't as great as everybody else, but it's
They're
but
also
at,
not as good as everyone thinks they're in.
yeah.
Everyone's getting into shirts. They're like, you just make a shirt for like $3 a shirt. I'm like, where the fuck are those?
Yeah. And I also had a problem with a lot of major brands who, like, when I liked a lot of hypebeast stuff. Like, I remember when I went to Japan and I went into the Supreme store
Mm.
and I was like, cool, Supreme's like a dope brand. I looked at it and then they didn't take the Gildan tag off their t-shirt. And it's like, hold on a second. This shirt probably cost them 25 cents to make,
Yep.
or to buy, and then maybe $1 to print their shit on it.
Yep.
And I'm gonna pay $100 for this, for the shittiest. This is like swap meet shirts that I used to wear when I was a kid.
Oh, and they don't feel good. They're not like that. To me, kills me.
And it's $110 for the shirt. And so I'm like, listen, I'm not doing that. Like, if I'm gonna wear stuff too, and I always tell people too, it's like this shirt, right? Like, we cut and sew. It's a heavyweight tee. It's custom spec the way that we want it, the way that it drops, the way that it feels. I've watched this shirt fucking 4 times. It's black as shit.
Yeah.
These are the things that matter. So for us, it's like accessibility. You get high quality shit at high end brands, but not at that cost. And that's what it's always going to be. It's contemporary fashion basics that's affordable for everybody. So I just don't I don't want to have quick fashion. Like,
yeah. Right.
my 2 current favorite shorts right now for working out is your guys's. I had the camel one.
Yeah.
That's my favorite one, and then Bart's amphibious shorts. Those
and they're relatively the same shorts, but I mean, for all extensive purposes.
I love it. I was swimming with it in Hawaii.
Right.
And people are like, "Oh, where'd you get those?" I was like, "Nah, it's my buddy Matt, dude."
Dude, those shorts, at some point I realized, like last year or a year before, I was like, so we're a shorts company.
It's
Perfect.
good. It's so fucking good.
It's been great. It's been really fun, dude. And you guys going into apparel or anything like that, man, again, you've got a ton of resources. If there's anything I can ever do to help, please let me know. I've now expanded to where, so all of my printing, fulfillment, and shipment is out of Topeka, Kansas at our warehouse. So that's like 4 hours from me in St. Louis. And it's been there since I started. My buddy Phil runs it all. And now we do screen printing, fulfillment, and customer service.
Really?
Like another 10 brands. And so, like, to me, like, being able to offer that to other people was, if you want to do apparel, I can answer all of the mechanical questions of the way your business runs, because that isn't the hard part. Like, whoever packs boxes for you and knowing that that's done consistently and right, and answering customer service quickly, and doing all that and making sure your items are printed right, that ain't the hard part. Can you create and can you market it?
Yeah, marketing is like the biggest part, man. Like, it's so hard. And even with the partners that I had, like, I think that was the hard sell for them, because they're so good at making clothes. They are artists to the T. They use clothes. That's great, but that's not the reason why people are going to want to buy this. They have to understand what you're about. And so, for them, it was having that conversation with them was hard for them to understand at first, because they believe in their product so much. It's like, I believe in it too, but that's because I know what we're about. Now, how do we get other people to understand that so they believe in us as much as we believe in our own product? And it's hard. That's the marketing aspect of it.
Right. Trying to, and again, even with hate, right? Or realizing that, we're a totem. Like, this branding message, this is the thing that people latch to because they believe in that message for themselves, that they want to be better, that they want to self-actualize and have that. And this thing is a reminder to do that, and that's however you end up building your message. And man, if it lands with anybody, it's special.
Oh, I tell you this, like, when you get a comment where people get it and they're like, hey, that shit feels so fucking good. Like, it feels so good. I walking out yesterday, somebody was like, hey, where'd you get that shirt? I was like, oh shit. And they don't know who the fuck I am.
Yeah, right.
I was like, oh, so you like this? And they're like, yeah. I was like, oh, it's Secret Society. It's just, contemporary fashion. They're like, cool. Thanks for the info. But they had no idea who the fuck I was. They just liked the what it was. I was like, man.
I've had plenty of moments like that. My favorite is I've stopped people and been like, oh man, nice shirt. And like seeing one of mine, and they look at me like a prick. And I'm like, Oh shit, you don't know who I am. This is my favorite thing that's ever happened.
They go, fuck you, creep. I'm like,
right. Yeah, it's cool.
oh. I was like, I make that, but
What,
all right.
like what, you sew? No, damn it.
That's when you just kind of just walk away.
You just leave. Like, what'd you do? Send an email to a guy? I'm like, technically.
That's so fucking funny. They're like, hey, nice. They're like, fuck you. I'm like, all right.
Dude, I've eaten up a ton of your day, David, and I can't thank you enough, man. Thanks for coming in and chatting. And brother, I appreciate it all.
Dude, anytime, man. This is dope conversation, dude. Like I said, like I remember meeting you years ago during JK News. You always been like such a nice and kind guy. You have a vibe to you that I really much enjoy, and it's the
Thank
same
you.
vibe that Bart has. You know, and I feel like Bart brings you in a circle, then your family automatically. So
Same way I felt about all you guys. Bart and Gia
awesome.
don't fuck with losers, so.
Oh, that's for sure.
Dude, anything you want to shout out, promote, talk about other than?
Yeah, if you guys want, check out Junbi Matcha. If you guys like matcha, Junbi, you just go to junbishop.com. And if you like Secret Society, if you like contemporary fashion basics, that's SCRTSOCIETY.com. And the podcast is Genius Brain, one word.
Hell yeah. Brother, I thank you so much. And next time I'm back out west, I'll let you know.
For sure. All right, man.
David, thank you, brother.
Peace.